Um, Welcome back to my YouTube channel, my live stream. This is Jacob Cast 2024. Gonna do my WWE Smackdown review. This is a new year, 2026. Hit that like button, leave a comment. Please subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support. Just make sure you guys want enjoy this video. My video is sponsored by PlayStation and JD from New York, Salamoto Sound Off, Fightful Pro Wrestling, and other podcasters and YouTubers I know of. Now this will be like an hour and 10 minutes. We will talk about SmackDown. We'll talk about some of the news and rumors. We may talk a little bit about, might be too late, maybe a little about AEW, Dynamite. Now we are going to talk about SmackDown. Now, while I play Fortnite, I'm going to let you hear some of the podcasters and some of my YouTubers in their chat. SmackDown was the first time back now with under 3 hours. It was under 3 hours last year. Now we're back under 3 hours of SmackDown. There were some good things on the show, not everything was good. The hell? Alright, let's show you guys just Alex. Alright. And we got the wrestling jazz.
Just a way of talking about those tag team championships. It was fine, very forgettable, good 94 according to our community.
We got Fightful Pro Wrestling. We got Jordan Grace making her SmackDown debut. Matt Cardona has signed with WWE. Trick Williams, it appears he's coming to SmackDown. Now this isn't a year. The show 3 hours. They need star power. Need something.
An idea.
$444 to Crest the Star. Looking at you, MJF, for Black Girl Wrestling and also the Crest the Star.
We got the return of Randy Orton. He came back in the opening show.
I feel like this is a turning point for Carmelo. Like coming off of last week, it really seems like he has broken the barrier. Like he was.
Alright. We got Joe Cronin. 3 hours is long.
I gotta call an expert for this. Oh my god. Hey, did you see the jeweler get spit on today or something like that? Like.
Now, next week, SmackDown will be in Berlin, Germany. They already announced the matches. We got Ray Phoenix and Trick Williams in the match. We got the YSC and the MFT in an 8-man tag. And then we got Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre, a 40W Championship, and a 3 Days of Hell match. It's on SmackDown next week. So we'll see who wins that. We had a pretty good segment with Drew McIntyre set Dusty Rhodes' picture on fire in front of Cody Rhodes while Cody being held back. Nick Aldis said, you put your hand on Drew McIntyre, you're gonna be forfeit the title. So they're really setting up, making the feud more personal, more tense, more heated. We hope that the feud will end next week, that the storyline is gonna be over, and then we see who the Cody will feud with going into the Rumble or the Chamber or WrestleMania. That was a very good segment with Cody and Drew. I can't wait to see what can happen there. Now, we did get Chelsea Green defended her U.S. Women's Championship. You know, that irrelevant title that no one cared about. Now, Julia won the U.S. title for the women's U.S. title. She actually won the title back. Is he going to do anything with it? No. It's going to be the same thing as he was last time when she was champion. We had a very good match with Carmelo Hayes and Gargano for the U.S. title. Hayes defeated Gargano in a very good match. Hayes is doing pretty good with the U.S. title. We had a pretty interesting face-to-face with Trick Williams engaged in an intense face-to-face with Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn still teasing that he wants to be world champion. He's missing to be WWE champion. Sami Zayn is likelihood to win the Rumble. And then we got the return of Matt Cardona, returned with an electric victory he beat Kit Wilson, won it pretty deadly. I'm surprised not using Zack Ryder, but using the real name. Matt Cardona officially signed with WWE. We did get I think we had an 8-woman tag with Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, and Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss versus the Kabuki Warriors and Last Legend Nia Jax. Now the babyface went over here. We haven't seen Tiffany Stratton on TV. Jade Cargill's not doing anything with the title. SmackDown really needs a better division than any woman because Rhea Ripley and Io Sky are too good to be in a tag team. Charlotte's too good to be in a tag team, but she is with Alexa Bliss. Why can't they go after the women's title or something? Because Jade needs some challengers. Have Charlotte and Jade feud. Now the show opened up with, I think, the Miz coming out. He gets interrupted by Randy Orton. He returned. He destroyed the Miz with 2 RKOs. We'll probably see Randy Orton in the Rumble. Possible Chris Jericho in the Rumble. Alright. Now let me go into some of the podcasters here. Adney Salcedo. Hold on. Alright.
Oh no, Rob! Like, I don't fucking make prices, man.
Now the main event, we did get Damian Priest and Aleister Black and an ambulance match. Very good. Great way to close the show. Hopefully the feud is over and that we can move on. Because I don't want to see the two feud again. They feuded long enough. Damian Priest got the win. He beat Aleister Black. We'll see what Priest goes after. We also had a team with Nakamura and Tama Tonga. It was a bad day 7 that they had. Nakamura and Tama Tonga. Now they have history from New Japan, so they could renew that rivalry.
Without, with people we truly care about.
Yeah, she's not really doing much. I mean, she's saying, like, you know, she's beating somebody up and then saying, I'm that bitch, essentially, right? Like, that's what now, I mean, she's got a point as far as, you know, her presence and all that. But, yeah, I think you're spot on. It depends on who's on the other side of her in the ring. And you know, maybe when Bianca Belair comes back, is that something that we're kind of biding time towards right now? I could see that really, you know, business picking up there, but it essentially comes down to the fact that she doesn't really have. I mean, I'm even thinking about it real quick on the roster. Who stands across from her right now that makes sense?
Nobody really, besides Bianca. Like, that's the real big one that we're waiting on. I mean, if Jordan were to go in there with Jade, that would be freaking awesome, and it would finally be, look, obviously we know Jordan can't beat Jade right away because Jade is still, you know, trying to grow as a champion, but regardless, you've got to give Jade some victories that actually matter. She's going to have feuds that actually matter because no one cared that much about, like, her and BFAB or her and Michin, and I hate to say that, but it's because they're not, you know, they're not at the top of the food chain when it comes to the women's division, and you're gonna need the champion to defeat the very best of the best. And right now, it feels like the very best of the best haven't been in the ring with Jade Cargill, with her as champion. So the people are sort of like not, and you know how it is when it comes down to like new champions, especially Jade Cargill. Everybody knows that, you know, the in-ring work is the thing that she really needs to work on the most. So I think that no matter what, she's always going to have a harsher spotlight on her because people already know what her flaws are. And so when you're keeping her away from like these big matches, people are going to be like, oh, well, they're keeping her away because she's not a good wrestler. And you don't want that. You never want for people to see right through that.
Yeah, no, I mean, one, it's the level of opponent, but also, even if it's not, you know, necessarily somebody that you think is going to take the title off her, but just somebody that gives her that credibility boost. She hasn't even had that. She's been going through the people that, or no disrespect to them, but have been sort of filler content on the shows for quite a while, or you know, in the middle of the show for quite a while, that you know for a fact aren't going to take the title off her or pose any threat. I mean, we go through feuds all the time where you understand somebody's probably winning the match, but at least the person on the other side of them done it before, has a history of doing it before. There's a level of credibility of maybe, or even knowing they're going to lose, that's a big win to go over them. And you don't have that for Jade right now. There's not anybody that's on her level that, the Bianca Belair is the match that you're getting to. But then even on the way to the Bianca Belair match, she's not going through a Bayley or people like that who have been there and done that before.
Credibility boost. You said it right there. That is exactly what I think Jade kind of needs right now, and then continue on from there. Thank you, Jacob. We got Josh D8787. Thank you so much, Josh, for the super chat. Says between AEW and WWE, who would you guys say is the current greatest male and women's wrestler today? Then who would you guys say is better between the two? Okay, so if we're talking in-ring wrestling wise, in AEW for me it would be Will Ospreay. He's still number one for me, and I would put Bandito in there as well. WWE, when it comes to like the best wrestler, this one for me kind of fluctuates because I like a little bit of everybody. But I feel like there are certain guys that I know are always going to deliver like great matches, and those right now, for me, believe it or not, I love to see Seth Rollins wrestle. I think he's one of my favorites, like in-ring wise. I would probably say Seth Rollins is one of my favorites up there. And then the other guys are not considered like as big yet. Like I love to watch Ilya Dragunov wrestle, right? But he's not, at the top of the food chain either, just like that. But I love to watch him wrestle. I love to watch, I guess they're in the forefront of my mind since I just saw them, but I love to watch like Carmelo Hayes wrestle, but those are not the guys that are at the top. I think Rey Fenix is one of the best wrestlers they have on WWE, but we hardly ever get to see him in those really big matches. And then of course, like Leon Slater, Javon Evans, like all those people. So there's not someone for me that's like at the top number, like there's not that number one person for me in ring wise in WWE. It kind of fluctuates depending on who they're in the ring with. What about you, Robin?
I mean, you just did a long breakdown. I'll go with I'll take it outside of just the in-ring. In AEW, MJF and Tony Storm, to me, are the best overall, most entertaining total packages. And in WWE, and I think WWE, like Roman Reigns needs his aura back, but I would say it's Roman Reigns and Rhea Ripley with a special shout out to Io Sky, because when you are talking in-ring, I would put Io Sky up against anybody.
I love it. I love how I gave the wrestlers, and then you gave the sports entertainer.
Yeah.
I love how we both saw that question so differently. No, but it's true, because then if we're talking like that, then my answer completely changes. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but also once you gave your answer, there was no like we could sit here and like nitpick somebody versus the other person, but I figured it's a nice well-rounded response if I went the other way.
I love that. Thank you, Josh. All right, we also got Sleaze Boy. What's up, Sleaze Boy? He says, I have to beat a dead horse one. My issue with John Cena versus Gunther was all the finishers Gunther kicked out of. He's not Roman Reigns or Undertaker or Lesnar. Thank you, Sleaze Boy. Look, I'm going to be real with you. I'm leaving that in 2025. But Robin, if you got things you want to get off your chest, you are more than welcome to.
Oh, I mean, Denise, I think you and I probably had the same reaction, but I was pissed in the moment. But as time passed, I think it's been brilliant. I mean, I feel like Gunther got the heat, the nuclear heat that was needed from a move like that. John Cena, I went along with the explanation that he let go instead of tapped out. And it's one of those things that you're going to talk about forever. Like, ultimately, that matters more than anything else. Like, you and I, Denise Salcedo and Robin Lundberg, we could be, is it just turned 2026? It could be 26-7, and we
Oh, no, Robin, no!
It was the first one that came to my head. And we could be sitting there.
Out of every year, you could have said like 2100 or I don't know, literally any year ever. 2069, great, that we would have ha-ha'd. 2067.
You know how old I am? There used to be a Conan O'Brien bit. It was like, in the year 2000. And it was like looking forward to the year 2000. Well, that was a ways back now.
That was really sad, actually.
we could go way, well, remember Y2J? We could go way into the future, right? And we could be sitting here and we could go, you remember John Cena's last match? And you go, hell yeah, I did. Hell yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, we start arguing and debating it, and that's the else, it made you feel, it made you care, and it's always going to be talked about. And it elevated Gunther for sure.
Thank you, Sleaze Boy. We got Randy Hayward here who says, Braun, Drew win, Punk wins Chamber, Drew Punk at Mania. I don't know if we have to see Drew and Punk at Mania again. I think we're kind of past that. I don't think we have to go back to that. And you're talking to somebody who loved that feud. But I just don't think we have to go back to that. What about you, Robin?
Yeah, I feel a little, catapulted or fast-tracked at this point. I mean, I know they have the history. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to me. I think both Punk and Cody go in as champions. But it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate having these two title matches right now, and if that's the case. Because, like you said, Drew McIntyre loses. What's next for him? And CM Punk, Braun Breaker does feel like it could be his moment right now. But whenever I think about it might be changing, I then go, TKO, okay. WrestleMania's 2 nights, all these tickets. Which faces... And ultimately, Cody Rhodes and CM Punk are going to be involved in the main events or high in the card with titles at WrestleMania.
Yeah, honestly. Like, at the end of the day, that's how it's going to go. Thank you, Randy. We got Sleaze Boy here who says, Cena should have retired at SummerSlam where he takes off his shoes and his shorts as well. He's naked in an empty arena singing Summer Wind. By the way, I don't think John Cena, he's been naked at, like, a bunch of things. On the screen, at award shows. So John Cena being naked, it isn't technically even like the craziest thing that we could have seen. Thank you, Sleaze Boy. Alrighty, let's get into some of the other items that went down. Alright, so we talked about Jordan Grace. She was one of the faces that we saw. One of the other faces that we saw, Matt Cardona defeated Kit Wilson and is now part of the SmackDown roster. My initial thought was, dude, I'm happy for Matt Cardona. He's been busting his ass. He's been wanting to be back in WWE. He finally made it back. I'm surprised it took this long. Are you excited about the prospect of having Matt on the roster?
It's an interesting story, right? Because of how much he was grinding and working, all over the place and hustling and picking himself back up and getting to that spot. So, I am interested to see. Maybe I'm a little influenced. I just did Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7 with him on Tuesday. He was in the car on the way to Maxine Dupree's wedding with, Chelsea Green's in the car, obviously.
Wait, and he did the show just like that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, that's crazy.
The second hour of the show, I was, on Sam Roberts' show on Tuesday. So, I mean, he wasn't the one driving the car, but
still.
Yeah, as a passenger in the car. And so, and I did, it was the second week in a row. I think I did that exact slot because he does it on Tuesdays, I think. So, I have when you wind up talking to somebody for an hour, 2 weeks in a row, and you're going about the business, and you're hearing their stories, and when you organically then were rooting for them, because I asked him how the match with Cena came about, and he said it was like within 24 hours notice. It was like not well in advance. It was like you have the gear. Which gear do I need? Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona? And I do like that it's going as Matt Cardona and not as Zack Ryder. No offense, but I feel like that comes off a little corny right now versus what he went and established. So I feel like that's the right one.
He's done a lot with the Matt Cardona name, where now I feel like the value is higher to be Matt Cardona than it is to be Zack Ryder, which doesn't happen very often for WWE people. Usually it's like whatever name you were in WWE, like that's the name people know you as. So like kudos to Matt Cardona for making that name, feel like it means a lot more now than Zack Ryder. We got Sleaze Boy here who says, for Drew versus Cody, 3 stages of hell, my picks would be Monster Truck Sumo match at seen in WCW, Tuxedo match, and Dog Kennel from champion, yet it's not looking too good. Like, that's weird, right? Like, you can't say someone's champion, but then also say it's not looking too good. It's just that I don't know.
Benefited either of these two men beyond the fact that it has given them something to do on TV. Now that it is over, I hope. Now that this feud is over, I don't see how either one of these men have benefited coming out of this program. It has dragged on. It has been largely a bore. I, for one, am very happy that it's over. So they went out there tonight. They had what has to be the last match. And as brawls go, they had a solid main event. For the kind of match that it was, again, a lot of it didn't happen in the ring, obviously. It was a WWE style of brawl, where it just so happened that to win, you had to throw your opponent into the back of an ambulance. And so, they worked their asses off, and they did a lot of big table bumps and big spots in the match. And I thought it was solid. It was a solid way to kind of put a close to it. Aleister Black takes the L. He comes out of this feud now a loser. So I don't know what that means for him as far as where he goes from here. I don't even know what it means as far as Damian Priest. Damian Priest did a podcast recently with Nick Turturro where he was talking about how WWE really put him on the back burner in 2025 because his body was so beat up. And the way he was moving around out there, I don't know that he isn't still beat up. So, I mean, is he even back to 100% health? And if not, is he just going to disappear now? Do they have an idea in mind for what they want to transition him into? Or is he so beaten up that they feel like they need to really kind of take it easy with his schedule? That's why we didn't see him a lot last year. I read the stats on the Sound Off a few weeks ago where he went from having I think 70-something matches maybe in 2024 to having 20-something last year because he was not injured, but he was just so beaten up. And he's had issues, I think he said, with his knees or maybe his shoulders. I forgot what he said. So I don't even know, as far as the immediate future for him, what it means. I'm just glad it's over. Some feuds, they grab you. They grab you by the throat, and it's like, man, this is really good. These guys are playing well off of each other. They have great chemistry. Their matches are fun. But there's a personal issue between the two of them. And, the matches between them weren't bad, but they weren't great either. And there was nothing really that grabbed you in this feud. Aleister Black, he does the brooding vignettes. We got a lot of video promos with him and Zelina. And I like putting the two of them together. But there was just nothing about, what these guys were feuding over or what they did together that made me want to see them come back out and wrestle again. So I'm glad that it's over. Carmelo Hayes, I'll tell you the opposite of that. And what I really enjoy seeing every week is the United States Championship on this show. The U.S. title continues to be the anchor on Friday nights. This show would be a lot worse off without the matches that we have been getting every week for the United States title. At first it was Sami Zayn, and then when he lost it, it was Ilya Dragunov, and now it's Carmelo Hayes. Because Carmelo Hayes won the U.S. title on SmackDown, the tape show, but the day after Christmas it aired, and he won the U.S. title, had a hell of a match. And I was wondering, are they going to continue the open challenge? You can't go on with it forever. Maybe they'll keep it going until a heel wins it, and then it makes sense to drop it. I think that's what's going to happen here. But clearly, they made it very clear tonight that the open challenge is going to continue, which is great. That's great news, because it is still the best thing about Friday Night SmackDown. But tonight it wasn't an open challenge match, but he went out there and he had a really good match with Johnny Gargano. Again, not technically part of the open challenge, but just a reminder, that as long as he's going to keep it going, there's more great matches like that yet to come, which is something to really look forward to. And one of those new faces, I think, that we will be seeing in the ring at some point in the not-too-distant future. Maybe even the man who ultimately takes the title from Carmelo Hayes is one of the new faces on Friday Night SmackDown. And this, to me, was really the highlight of the show. We talk about 3 hours. It's a long time to sit there for 3 hours. We're not talking about a PLE. For the weekly television, with a mix of matches and promos and backstage segments and a gazillion fucking commercials. It's hard to sit there for 3 hours straight. A lot of these shows are not great. SmackDown was largely a dumpster fire for a good part of 2025. And so when they made the announcement that the show was going back to 3 hours at a time when the show was not exactly great, you hear that, and obviously it makes you go, oh my God, what? 3 hours of this every single week. They have to introduce some new faces to this show. They have to breathe new life into this show. They never did a draft. There was no transfer portal. How are they going to get new people on this show? I don't care how they do it, as long as they do it. And there have been reports that they recognize the need. Of course they recognize the need. Look at the state of the roster right now. They lost a bunch of people due to injury, including Kevin Owens last year. He's been sorely missed on these shows. Bianca Belair ended up missing the majority of the year, which nobody expected. Hopefully they'll get her back very soon. And the women's division has just been completely ravaged. Tiffany Stratton's reign suffered as a result of that, and now Jade Cargill, I don't even know what to say, ever since she won the championship. Hasn't been great. So the women's division, more than anything else on this show, really needs a lot of work. They took steps in that direction tonight. One of the new faces that they are very heavily teasing is going to end up on SmackDown is the former TNA Knockouts champion, who has spent the last year in NXT, and that is Jordynne Grace. And, I've been asking the question now for months, where is Jordynne Grace? Why have they not called up Jordynne Grace? And yes, her husband suffered 2 strokes several months ago, Jonathan Gresham. Seems like he's doing much better, which is great news. Perhaps that has something to do with why she was kept down in NXT. I don't know. All I know is that she was on the show tonight and is likely going to end up on SmackDown, although she's a free agent, so she's testing the field. But adding her to the SmackDown women's division is a must. It is a must. And there's any number of other women you could call up. Zarya, Solaruka, Jada Parker. I mean, you can go down a list of half a dozen different women. Jordynne Grace is going to be a great addition to that roster. Trick Williams is officially on SmackDown, and he's the name I was referring to when I talked about potentially taking the U.S. title away from Carmelo Hayes. Because obviously those two have a relationship together from the past. They have history together. Trick Williams came out on the show tonight, and, with the entrance and him walking out and everything and cutting that first promo, he's got something that this show is missing. Like, he just has that personality. He has that charisma to him. That's another great addition to the roster. And I'm going to talk about what that first feud or program looks to be for him, which I think is actually a great idea. So we know for a fact that he is officially on SmackDown. We also got a surprise, because I certainly wasn't expecting him to be the mystery opponent tonight for Kit Wilson. But Zack Ryder is back. Only not under that name. He was under that name when he was in the John Cena tournament a few months ago. But he is now officially a member of the SmackDown roster. And I'll talk more about that later on. Obviously, he's not a new face. He's a veteran face at this point. But still, a new face nonetheless. And someone who has worked his ass off to get back to that spot that he now finds himself in. So that's a cool story all by itself. But Cardona, Trick Williams, Jordynne Grace, we got another Obafemi vignette tonight. We still don't know where he's going to end up. This is a positive step in the right direction. And I'm not going to blow smoke up their ass too much because, let's be honest here, they almost had no choice. They were forced into this situation by being lazy and by not beginning the process of really seriously calling people up months ago, which is what they should have done. They got a late start on it. That's why we're seeing a whole bunch of new faces all at once. It's like shock and awe. Oh my God, look at all these new people they're calling up. This is great. Yes, but this process should have started a long time ago. So now they have some catching up to do, but this is exactly what SmackDown needs. If I'm going to sit here and watch this show for 3 hours straight every single week, you have to introduce new faces and new stories to this show. And even with that, this show is still a slog to sit through. Tonight's show was not bad. I don't know if they could do that every week. It wasn't great, but I would say it was a good show tonight. I would like to see them. It's a good starting point for them here. First show of the new year. Build on this. But 3 hours every week is not going to be easy. But this is what needs to be done if you're going to put together a show that can help get people over, but also have a good mix of both, not just new faces, but also, great wrestling, new feuds, and not running the same people back over and over again. That is I mean, to me, that's the biggest building block of all for this show going forward in 2026. So I had my doubts about tonight, but it ended up on the whole actually not being a bad show. One other thing that happened here on this show tonight is Julia. And this is actually a great example of what I was talking about. Julia is once again the United States champion. And I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to rain the confetti down and throw a party. Because we saw Julia win the U.S. title once before. And it sucked. Because they didn't do anything with her. So, I'm not going to give them the benefit of the doubt about anything when it comes to this woman until I see it with my own two eyes. She is a champion again, great. It means nothing. It means nothing until they can show us that they are serious about actually doing something with her. One thing that is a positive step is introducing people like Jordynne Grace to this roster. Because that will give her new people to work with and actually wrestle. Because they do have more time on a 3-hour show. So you're going to get longer matches. And really where Julia, I think, will get over is with her wrestling. It's not going to be her promos. You know, she can speak English. I don't know why they don't, attempt to give her some speaking time. But obviously it's not her first language. She's not great at promos. What will help get Julia over is letting her go out there and be Julia. In between the ropes. But you got to give her some people to work with. So we'll talk. A lot happened tonight. We'll talk about everything that happened here on the show. This is your first Friday Night Smackdown review. Here for the new year, it is January 2nd, 2026. I am the Solid Monster. Yes, longer matches and entrances. Well, I mean, look, that's what happens with a 3-hour show. You're also going to get segments, as I'm sure you remember when they've done this before, where you're watching it, and it almost feels like they're stalling for time, right? It almost feels like, man, they're dragging this out on purpose. It's because they are. We're gonna be getting some of that too. Anyway, like and subscribe. Super chats are open. I do. Oh my God! Look who showed up. Look at this. Look at who showed up here right at the beginning. Our pal Gunther. Actually, it's our pal Aaron, who we haven't heard from for a while, but he was at the show tonight. Aaron says he was at the show tonight, and I was gladly surprised with how fresh and fun certain segments were. Hoping Drew is winning next week. Keep hoping. But not holding my breath. Happy New Year, Solo. Happy New Year, Aaron. Yes, don't hold your breath. I don't want you to die. Don't do that. We'll be reading all the rest of your super chats here a little bit later on. But hit that like button. If we get minimum 400 likes, of course, we will be the booker. That would be the first one. Actually, no, it would not be the first one. Technically, I guess the first ones were at the end of the New Year's stream. Which I should mention here because we had a hell of a night the other night. It was the Make It Till Midnight stream / Dynamite review. We kind of fused the two of them together. And we were on for over 3 hours. We rang in the new year together. It was a lot of fun. Read a lot of your messages, and it was a good time. So I want to thank everybody who joined me the other night. And now we get to do our first actual post show here for the new year. So let's get into it. We'll start here from the top, because the first SmackDown of the new year, guess how it kicked off? This show kicked off with The Miz, which is not a great way to open the new year if they're opening with The Miz coming out to the ring. All due respect to The Miz. So he interrupted the announcers who were speaking at ringside, and he's out there and he's pissing and moaning about not getting his match that he wanted, that he felt he was owed with John Cena. And he wanted it because he wanted closure to their story. I don't know about you, but I was happy enough to get closure to their story 15 years ago. I don't think anybody was really begging for closure to John Cena against The Miz, so I'm okay with it. But he said that he should have been the one to tap out John Cena. And then he bitched about offering his expertise. I offer my expertise and my wisdom, my knowledge, to all of the young stars in the back. And what does it get met with? It gets met with ungratefulness and entitlement. And he belittled the fans. He said that they wouldn't know greatness unless he slapped the nachos out of their hands. And then he made fun of some fat guy in the crowd for looking like 2005 Jelly Roll. Then he complained about Joe Hendry, but he stopped short of actually, who was not on the show tonight now that I think about it. Joe Hendry made his SmackDown debut last week. And 3 hours, I guess we did not get Joe Hendry tonight. There's not enough time. But he stopped short of actually saying Hendry's name, because of course you know what happens when you do that. He said, he who shall not be named, and his buddies, they ruined The Miz's last SmackDown of the year. And he also brought back a nickname. Joe Hendry brought back a very nasty nickname for The Miz, a very untrue nickname. And at that point, the fans began to chant tiny balls at him. Oh, it was a great way to start off the new year. He said this will not become a thing again, but there is a silver lining. He says John Cena is gone now. And he started running down all of his titles that he's won over the years, and he called himself the first ever Grand Slam champion, which is not true. He misspoke. First Grand Slam champion is Shawn Michaels. I believe what he meant to say was that he's the first ever two-time Grand Slam champion, which is true. But he said that he's the face now of WWE. And he said that he's the lone adult in the room filled with spoiled little brats. He said that he is the locker room leader. And as soon as he said this, who comes out? Randy Orton. This is how they reintroduced Randy Orton to WWE television. But he's back, so that's good. That's really, at the end of the day, that's what matters. So he got a rousing ovation, as you would imagine. Miz said that, hey, it's good to have him back. And he said, as I was saying, we are the locker room leaders, and we are the adults in the room. And together, we could be Miz KO, he said. And clearly Randy Orton disagreed because he dropped him with an RKO. And in response to this, the fans began to chant one more time. So Orton picked him back up. He wished The Miz a very happy new year, and he dropped him with another RKO. And that is how the segment ended. So look, this ate up the first 20 minutes of the show. So when I talk about like segments that are really there to be time fillers or time wasters, you do get a lot of that on these 3-hour shows, right? I mean, it's hard enough to format a 2-hour show, I'm sure. Formatting a 3-hour television show is not easy. Like, I'm not saying the job they have is easy, right? There's a lot of work that goes into it. You got to hit certain time cues. And you probably run into a situation where it's like, okay, we have X number of matches, or maybe we have, a couple of in-ring promos, whatever, and then however many backstage segments, and maybe you're like, well, we don't really have time for another match, so what can we put on this show to really kill fucking 10 minutes or 15 minutes that we don't really have anything else to use it for? And you get a segment like this. Although in this case, they used this to reintroduce Randy Orton, so something came out of it. But it still ate up the first 20 minutes of this show, when it really didn't have to. But it's great to finally have Randy Orton back. And then in the back after this, Cody Rhodes was walking. And Orton approached him and told him, after you're done beating Drew McIntyre in Berlin next week, I'm coming for that. And he pointed at the WWE Championship. No more staring for Randy Orton. I feel like he has spent literally the last 2 years, 2.5 years, staring at the WWE title. Like, anytime he was on screen with Cody in the ring, in the locker room, it was like a little Easter egg where if you watched Orton, he was always staring at the title. Even when Cody won the belt at WrestleMania in Philly, I think Orton came out, and I think even then he was staring at the belt. He's been staring at this fucking thing for 2 years. So it's about time that he actually said, you know what? I'm going to come for it. I'm coming after it. It took him long enough. It took him long enough to come after the championship. So now he's finally expressing an interest in it. And I'm looking ahead because I don't see this as the WrestleMania match. I think that we get Cody and Randy at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship. That's where my head is at right now. Now we'll see what happens in Berlin next week. But coming out of this show, that was my thought. You know, after seeing what we saw, that was my thought coming out of SmackDown tonight. We go backstage. Yeah, it's very funny. It did. It took him a long time to come after the title. See, you people, you gotta get your minds out of the gutter. Not you people. So backstage, the women's tag team champions, Asuka and Kairi Sane, they were approached by Nia Jax and Lash Legend, who beat them on the show a few weeks ago. And they were there to remind the champions, in fact, that they beat them. And they said that they would help them tonight because there was an 8-woman tag team match. But then they would owe them. So Asuka laughed at them and said that she and Kairi will retain their titles on Monday night because they're defending them against Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. And then after that, they would get their shot. You know, they're not hiding from them. So Asuka leaves, and Kairi hung back to say a few more words to them, until, of course, Asuka yelled for her. Kairi! And, yes, off went Kairi Sane to go join her partner. So we got a modified version, basically, of War Games. There was no Becky Lynch and there was no AJ Lee, and it was one ring instead of two. But otherwise, this felt like a rehash of War Games because we had Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss taking on Asuka, Kairi Sane, Nia Jax, and Lash Legend. And we got our first ad break pretty early on here in this match. It would not be our last. Legend got thrown out of the ring as Alexa, she flattened Nia with a tornado DDT. Bliss got the tag to Charlotte, who caught both Legend and Jax with a crossbody. Lash then got dropped by the somersault clothesline. You know, when Charlotte does this move, you know, she has to flip over into the club.
Regrow your hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. Let me show you how you can take your hair from this to this.
Not requested, it is expected. Not just from the rookies. Very much looking forward to that. Hopefully you guys had a great new year. Living pessimist. I don't look at anything on Monday night. Obviously, you saw tonight, Jordynne Grace. I wouldn't necessarily call her a part of the youth movement, but a much-needed asset in the women's division, which is basically empty. Trick Williams, Javon Evans, Oba, Femi. It's exactly what they start or need to start doing. And what they started tonight on Friday night. We also got the return of Matt Cardona. Matt Cardona is back, full-time, in the WWE. This was a long time coming and quite the gift for Matt Cardona in 2026 after spending 5 years away from WWE, busting his fucking balls on the independent circuit, making sure that everybody knew who he was, has finally returned home. To WWE. And when I saw him in the John Cena Last Time Is Now tournament, I said exactly what I'm going to say to you now. WWE would be foolish to not give that man a full-time contract and put him on Friday night and let him run with that show. That show could be his. And I'm glad to see WWE brought him back away from the Zack Ryder gimmick. Trick Williams made his presence known, not only getting into it with Sami Zayn, but he got into it with Rey Fenix. There's another one that needs to be pushed in 2026. Jordan Grace. She got into it with Chelsea Green. She got into it with Jade Cargill. Jordan Grace seemingly is on the radar for the WWE main roster. We saw another Obafemi vignette. We don't know where he's going to land, but I'm assuming it's going to be on Friday night. That's where I think he fits best. Then on Monday night, like I said, we got Braun Breaker, we got Bronson Reed, we got Javon Evans, more than likely going to end up over there. Austin Theory. One of the biggest problems in WWE was focusing on the past and not really forging a new future. It looks like WWE is hopefully in the process of doing that. And we'll talk about all those names that I mentioned that showed up tonight, and I'll give you guys my opinion on what I feel they will be doing going into 2026. Carmelo Hayes defended the United States Championship against Johnny Gargano in what was a great wrestling exhibition, because we won't use banger anymore, because the shills over at Sports Illustrated really made it uncool to use that term. Carmelo Hayes is the United States Champion, and that championship is in good hands with Carmelo Hayes. It was in good hands with Ilya Dragunov. It was in good hands with Sami Zayn. But it's nice to see, after what those two guys did, that the United States Championship is still being defended the way that it was with both of them. Drew McIntyre. He laid the foundation for what will be 3 stages of hell next week in Berlin, Germany, against Cody Rhodes for the WWE Championship. And after tonight, if Drew McIntyre doesn't win the WWE Championship, I will be very, very disappointed. After what he did tonight, I would be very, very disappointed. WWE could certainly use a shot in the arm. WWE could certainly use some change at the top. They could certainly use some unpredictability. They could certainly throw a wrench into the system and fuck the gears up for just a little bit. I know they don't really like that because they love playing on Sesame Street. Triple H is a big fan of Elmo, I heard. Big Bird may be on the creative team for all I fucking know. Now, we don't need to do that. We need to burn the fucking nest down to the ground. We need to kick Oscar the Grouch's can over and piss on it. Drew McIntyre should win the WWE Championship. I don't know if he will. This is WWE we're talking about. I would suspect Jacob Fatu returns next week and fucks things up. But the segment that they did tonight between those two to send us home going into next week was a fantastic segment. It really showed you how great of a heel Drew McIntyre really could be. And it shows you when Cody Rhodes is pushed to the limit, that when things get fucking nasty, Cody Rhodes is certainly going to go to war. Cody Rhodes is going to have a lot of people coming after him, whether it's Drew McIntyre, Jacob Fatu, or Randy Orton, who returned. Randy Orton returned to Friday Night SmackDown tonight. He didn't really do much of anything outside of 2 segments, which were the first 2 segments of the show. He came back and wasted 17 minutes with the fucking Miz, and then he made his intentions known. Whoever wins against Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes, he will be coming after the winner for the WWE Championship. And he made Cody aware that if he wins, even though they're friends, that's out the window. Randy Orton is coming after the WWE Championship. So if you look at the 3 hours that WWE gave us tonight, Randy Orton returned, Matt Cardona returned, full-time, Trick Williams debuted.
What a year. Trips, gifts, holidays. But all those memories come with a cost, like high-interest credit card balances. With Rocket Mortgage, clients save an average of $500 a month by using their home's equity to consolidate debt. With our fully digital application, it's simple to start the new...
Yeah. Joe Hendry more than likely is on Friday night. And then Jacob Fatu is set to return imminently. Just with those names, only one female. WWE has set Friday Night SmackDown up to be vastly different as it was in 2025. Now they need to start adding females to that division because that is still the weakest point of the show, as is the tag team division. But they're in the right direction. They're going in the right direction. The talent that they got back, the talent that they brought back, the talent that they called up, I have absolutely no problem with, and they alone could give SmackDown a different feel on Friday nights. Damian Priest and Aleister Black, 6th ever ambulance match on Friday Night SmackDown. Main event, I thought they did a very, very good job. I've seen some people complaining that Damian Priest won this ambulance match and theoretically ended the feud, which I hope that's the case. Both guys need to move on to something different. Aleister Black won 2 of their matches so far. Damian Priest only won 1 match. He got the last laugh in the ambulance match. So they ended up a 2-2 tie. I don't really understand why people were throwing the word buried around when Aleister Black got the ambulance doors slammed in his face tonight. They'll be fine. Both of them needed to move on to something different. What that something different is, I don't know. But I'm just glad that it's over. And we'll talk about everything else in between. Julia won the United States Championship tonight for a second time. I don't know what good that's going to do. Maybe WWE realized that they fucked up and they want to try again with Julia and the United States Championship. But the thing is, Julia won the United States Championship from Chelsea Green, and the division around her is the same as it was when she exited 2025. Unless Jordynne Grace is going to be that female that challenges Julia for the United States Championship, being that they got somewhat of a history, or a little bit of a history, in NXT. Again, more work needs to be done. I'm just not seeing how sound of a decision that was to give Julia the United States Championship. A lot more needs to be done there. Giving her the title is only the beginning. You can't expect her to do anything different if you, the creative, haven't done anything different for Julia. We're going to talk about this show tonight. I thought this was a very, very good episode of Friday Night SmackDown. I want to thank you guys for joining us here on Friday night. This is your Friday Night SmackDown review for January 2nd, 2026. Thank you guys very much, man. Hopefully you guys had a great new year. We got a lot of things we got to accomplish this year, man. We got a lot of things I want to accomplish. I want to get as much content out there to you guys as possible, whether it's through what we've been doing, which I genuinely feel is better than anybody. We're the best at what we do. No. Give me a fucking palm tree, give me some 70-degree weather, and give me sun. That's what I want. Not too hot, not too cold. You people in Buffalo are fucking weirdos. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk, yes. Buffalo, New York. We got the very, very stereotypical. If there's one thing I would change if I'm WWE, it is the shots of everybody walking into the building. Like, can we get like an opening theme? I miss the days of an opening theme, you know? Pyro going off to start the show. The shows just feel so cold. And they feel so lifeless. Michael Cole is there welcoming us to the fucking Key Bank Center in Buffalo, New York. And we see like Charlotte and Alexa and Cody Rhodes and Rhea Ripley and the Kabuki Warriors and all the women. And tonight's 8-woman tag team match. Walking into the building, it's like, all right. Can we get like a nice... I was going to say it. We can't say it because Sports Illustrated says it. I would love a nice rockin' theme with some pyro to kick us off, but no. We get the very stereotypical, let's get everybody walking into the building shot like they're fucking NFL. So, before we get anything going tonight, we got The Miz hijacking the show. The Miz starts the first SmackDown of 2026. Not really the best way that anybody wants to start the show. He said he isn't going to let the new year start officially until he airs his grievances from 2025. He said he asked for one match on John Cena's retirement tour. Our story needed closure. I can promise you it did not. I should have been the one to tap out John Cena. He said Cena's off smiling and riding off into the sunset while he's stuck in Buffalo. He says his second grievance regards young wrestlers he offered his knowledge to, but he was met with ungratefulness and entitlement. He said respect is not requested, it is expected, not just from the rookies, but also from the fans. So he's got a problem that he didn't get a match with John Cena. He's got a problem with Carmelo Hayes, because that's exactly who he was talking about. It's the only young guy that really disrespected him. That matters on Friday night. He said one fan in the crowd was looking like 2005 Jelly Roll. So basically, you call this guy a fat slob. He said his third grievance was being passed over for Marty Supreme. He says his fourth grievance regarded those who shall not be named. He was going to say Joe, and he kind of said, Joe, hey, no. No, he who shall not be named. Ruined his final SmackDown of the year by bringing back a very untrue nickname. And the fans then chanted, Tiny balls at Miz. Somewhere Vince McMahon is smiling from ear to ear. This will not become a thing again, said The Miz. He said the silver lining is that John Cena is gone. We can't see him, and we don't want to see him anymore. He said he is the new face of WWE, the new locker room leader. He said, unlike the city of Buffalo, he actually wins championships. Fans booed because when you go at their local sports franchises, that gets the ultimate heat. He says he's the most decorated superstar in the company. He listed his WWE title reigns and being the first ever Grand Slam champion in WWE. Locker room leader, face of WWE. He is the gateway. That is a shoot. He's the gatekeeper. Everybody that gets called up's got to go through the fucking Miz. He says he is the adult in the room, which is filled with spoiled little brats. All of a sudden, Randy Orton returns to Friday Night SmackDown. His music interrupted. Buffalo melted. Legitimately, it was loud as fuck in the KeyBank Center in Buffalo. They were singing his theme. He soaked up the moment. He took his sweet time getting into the ring. And I'm on my couch asking, why is Randy Orton returning to television? Why is Randy Orton returning to work against the fucking Miz? Orton jogged out in a Buffalo Sabres t-shirt. He doesn't need the cheap pop, but he did it anyway. Miz looked concerned, and then he seen Orton enter the ring, and then all of a sudden he changes his tune very quickly, starts cheering for Randy Orton. So we're 13 minutes into the show at this point, and then they play Randy Orton's theme all the way through. A couple of times, people were singing his theme. Orton winked and jogged and soaked up the energy around ringside. Fans chanted, Randy! Randy! Miz still has a microphone, unfortunately. And he told Buffalo to let Orton hear them cheer. And we got an RKO chant. That broke out. Miz says that both Randy Orton and himself are locker room leaders, the gateways in the faces of WWE. I'm glad you're back, Randy. We could actually, in 2026, be Miz KO. Yeah, nobody asked. I don't think that there's even one geek, one slob on Reddit, Squared Circle Reddit, that asks for Ms. KO. Maybe there is.
I'd do anything.
Oh, what's wrong?
Hi.
He gets set.
That it? And he probably came up with the fantasy scenario as he's breathing heavy into his fucking 6-layer cake. You know what would be great, JP? Miz and Randy Orton tag team, JP. Guarantee you this, one slob out there that thought of a Miz KO tag team. One. And he probably resides on Squared Circle Reddit. Because they all look that same exact way. Orton has a microphone. Actually, he didn't grab a microphone. I wish he did grab a microphone away from the Miz. He actually turned to the crowd for feedback, and then all of a sudden he hits an RKO out of nowhere on the Miz. So Miz was laying there on his back with a hand in the air, reaching for help. The fans were chanting for one more RKO. He grabbed him up, wished him a happy new year, and gave him a second RKO. Then he grabbed the microphone and said, I'm going to bust my ass this year and get what's coming to me. And that's the way the segment came to a close. We wasted 17 and a half minutes on Randy Orton coming back to the WWE. The first time we saw Randy Orton since SummerSlam, where he teamed with Jelly Roll. That same Reddit slob probably has fucking 6 dozen sitting on his kitchen counter right now. Jelly Roll against Logan Paul and Drew McIntyre. It's the last time we saw Randall Keith Orton. And the first time we see him is in 2026, the first SmackDown of the year, in the opening segment against the fucking Miz. Now, I'm glad Randy Orton is back being employed. I'm glad he decided to show up to work finally. It is Rumble season. But this is what you're going to get, chat. This is what you're going to get, folks. A 3-hour SmackDown that WWE is going to lollygag on. A 3-hour SmackDown that WWE is going to stretch as far as that rubber band can fucking go. Because they gotta fill 3 hours. And if it means Miz going out there and cutting a fucking promo for 14 minutes, and Randy Orton RKOing him twice, ending the first segment of the year for an 18-minute segment, that's what's gotta happen. To stretch this show to 3 hours. Would I have had Randy Orton come back tonight in this segment? No. If that was the case, you might as well have saved him for the fucking Royal Rumble. Why did he need to be here tonight? What did he do tonight that was so imperative for the WWE writing staff? He showed up. He RKO'd The Miz. He was in a backstage segment with Cody. And he looked at Cody and said, no matter who wins between you and Drew McIntyre, when you're done, I'm coming for this. And he pointed to the WWE Championship. We don't need Randy Orton to tell us what he wants. I think everybody knows exactly what Randy Orton wants. I think those same people want to see Randy Orton get what he wants. You just should have waited till the Royal Rumble if this was the best that you got. But they needed to stretch this show for an 18-minute segment. Thus, Randy Orton RKO's The Miz not once but twice. Backstage, Lash Legend and Nia Jax. They had a interview segment, or I guess the Kabuki Warriors did, and then Lash and Nia interrupted. Asuka says they'll retain their titles on Monday, and then they will gladly defend against Nia Jax and Lash Legends when they get through Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. I don't think anybody really cares to see Lash Legend and Nia Jax against the Kabuki Warriors. Again. Like I said, Randy Orton was walking backstage after that opening segment. He talked with Cody. He says he was glad he ran into him. He said out of respect, he wanted him to know that after he beats Drew McIntyre in Berlin, he's coming for the WWE Championship. He walked away. Cody had nothing to say. Nick Aldis walked up to Cody and said, Drew is there, and he cannot let Drew get under his skin. He says if he touches Orton, or if he touches Cody, rather, or Cody touches him, he'll forfeit the title. He says he'd hate to see it. Cody says he does not need to worry. He's not going to put a hand on Drew McIntyre.
What the?
8-woman tag team match opened the show. The Kabuki Warriors, Asuka and Kairi Sane, Nia Jax, Lash Legend against Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Charlotte Flair, and Alexa Bliss. I'm going to be honest with you guys, I didn't really care about any of this. I thought this was as fundamental and as straightforward as you could possibly be. There was nothing really surprising here. There was nothing really exciting here. This was basically a setup for what we're going to get on Monday. And what we're getting on Monday is Rhea Ripley and Io Sky challenging Asuka and Kairi Sane for the Women's Tag Team Championships. I do not see Rhea Ripley and Io Sky winning the Tag Team Championships. I don't. I think Rhea is going to be an odds-on favorite to win the Royal Rumble. In fact, Rhea and Io are two of the odds-on favorites to win the Royal Rumble. I would put Bianca Belair in that discussion as well. I'd put Liv Morgan in that discussion as well. I think Rhea Ripley's going to end up taking the Rumble. That's my prediction. I didn't really care about any of this, and this served nothing more than a backup or a hype for Monday's WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match. So all 8 of these women opened the show. Bell rang. All the heels attacked the baby faces. Rhea Ripley was left to face off with Asuka to start the match. Asuka stomped away on Rhea. She then got sent to the outside by Rhea, as did Kairi. Tagged to Alexa, who takes out the Kabuki Warriors with a big dive from the apron. And we took our first commercial break, which I'm assuming would be one of many, being that it is now a 3-hour show. We come back from the break. Nia Jax and Lash Legend were double-teaming Alexa Bliss. Legend got thrown out of the ring. Bliss took out Jax with a very, very weak-looking tornado DDT. Alexa tags in Charlotte, who hit both Legend and Nia with a crossbody. Flair goes to work on both of them with chops as Lash got dropped by a somersault clothesline. Charlotte then connected with a natural selection on Nia, as she then headed up top and made the moonsault attempt. She connected, and Nia Jax kicks out at it too. I'm very glad to see that Charlotte is not doing the moonsault to the outside. I know I mentioned this once before. Charlotte doing the moonsault in the ring while her opponent is lying flat on their back is the best way to go about it. I said maybe we should do the Spanish Fly because Charlotte has a very good looking Spanish Fly, but this is also very good. The other moonsault was terrible. I don't know why they did it for so long and why they let her keep doing it for so long. This is a lot better. It actually looks very good, and it almost all the time connects. Still not better than Tiffany Stratton's or Io's, but it's a lot better than what she was doing. Now we're on the apron. Charlotte and Lash Legend. Charlotte hits Legend with a boot.
I'm about to end the video. Hold on a second. I made this long enough. Hold on. About to end the video. So hit that like button. Leave a comment. Please subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comment section below. And you guys want to see more. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all the support. And until next time, I'll see y'all later.
Dropkick on both Asuka and Kyrie by EO. Highest paid, most in-demand indie talent.
Yeah, it's been about 10 minutes. Now, I will make more videos. I will do NBA 2K26 My Career. I will play Call of Duty Black Ops 7. I think I'm playing it tomorrow. So until next time, I'll see y'all later.